Welcome into the section 17. Wrong,
Whoa, 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 whoa.
wrong podcast. Welcome into the GA Scumbags, your crazy uncle's favorite Duke football pod. Sorry, guys. Was watching section 17 earlier. Shout out those guys. Go give them a listen sometime. Um, Welcome back, guys. I'm Tyler Lester, being joined by Eli. The third scumbag, Noah, couldn't be here this week. Little hiatus. We were gone for about 4 weeks. Last time we were here, we had just beat Middle Tennessee going into the UNC week. Life happens. We all got busy, just couldn't find a time to record. But hopefully, now through the end of the season, we'll be back. Um, we've missed a lot, guys. We're gonna go through every game we've missed. You know, the FSU game, the Georgia Tech game, the UNC game. We're gonna break down SMU. No mailbag this week, just because we want to get caught up on all the games. Starting next week, we'll have a mailbag. We'll give our predictions for the SMU game. Kind of have a little discussion about the stuff we've missed, where we think the team is. So we'll get started with the big one that everyone like the big game we were at. Myself and Eli were in there in Durham. We played UNC, won the game 21-20, brought the bell back, electric. For those of you that weren't there or didn't get to watch it, that first half, dear God, that
Abysmal.
was that was that was one of the worst halves of football Duke may have ever played. It's up there. And they came back from down 20. It was either they were down 20, came back, scored 21 unanswered halfway through the third, win the bell, stormed the field. It was a good time. So I guess we'll talk on that one first. Um, I'll give the crowd we were there. We talked about it. The students were there 30 minutes before kickoff. The student section was full.
Yeah, they
Like
showed
that,
out.
dude, that was awesome to see. It was just like it was one of those good football days. Till the game started. It was like one of those like everyone was tailgating, hanging out. Like the vibes were high. I thought we were going to lose the game, but I was still excited. Everyone's like amped up. And that first half,
Just abysmal. Yeah, I mean, at the half, I remember so vividly. I was sitting right next to Tyler, and I looked over at him, and he was just sitting there like this, just staring off in the distance, just not saying a word. You're like, I'm completely speechless right now. I have nothing to say. You're like, do they even practice during the week? And yeah, it was pretty abysmal. My girlfriend left at halftime. She wasn't feeling great. Plus, we were getting ready to be railroaded. I had to convince my dad and my brother to stay. Uh, I think a few of our friends' dads and friends left as well. Can't say honestly can't say I blame them.
yeah,
I
absolutely.
if I wasn't so sick in the head, I probably would have left too. Glad I didn't because obviously look what happened. Duke went off and came back and won it. Really storybook ending. That was fantastic. But yeah, no, I'm glad. I mean, literally like a storybook game. Like you couldn't script it to be any more dramatic than that was.
Shout out to everybody in our little section. I'm pretty sure I hugged everybody at some point in time. We bullied Eli out of the stands.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
for those of you that don't know, you can thank Eli for us winning that game. Now that we're back together, Eli had gone away for a few minutes, and we started our run, and we didn't let Eli come back down for a while, and so we could keep the run going. So Eli took one for the team. Everybody, give him the thank you next time you see him. He's why we won the game, if you believe in that kind of thing. But it was. I'm not speechless often, and this is something we're going to get on as we kind of break down the rest of the game and kind of talk about the season. The slow starts just absolutely kill us. And especially on a game like that, where, as hard of a time as we have getting people there, you've got to come out quick to like get the people to stay. Because a lot of people have seen a lot of bad Duke football. And down, 17 at halftime to UNC, a lot of those people were like, oh, same old, same old.
Yeah,
Let's get
just
out
like
there.
the old days.
Yeah,
Yep.
let's beat
Let's
the
beat the
track before this
traffic.
turns into 45. But credit to Duke. You got to give credit to them. They did come back and win. Then the next week, Duke made a trip down to Bobby Dodd, where weird shit always happens when Duke plays Georgia Tech. Um, I don't think it's a stretch to say Manny or not Manny, like coaching lost that game for us. 24-14, Georgia Tech beat us. Georgia Tech's good, don't get me wrong, but there were two fourth downs we went for it early in the game where I think we could have took the points. And then the one time we kicked the field goal, naturally we missed the field goal after we shouldn't have the first two times because with the running joke was I think I was in the group chat that night saying that Todd Plino had slept with Manny Diaz's wife or something because we just weren't going to use him. And I'll admit it, I've been on Manny's ass all year about wanting to be aggressive. I like seeing that. but there's a difference in being aggressive and being dumb. And sometimes when you're in a tied ball game and 3 points gets you the lead, and you're at a 4th and 2 from the 25-yard line, it's good of a defense as you have. You got to trust the defense in that situation. And then you do the same thing on the next drive, and you still don't take the points. And then naturally, the third time you decide to kick it, you miss the field goal. It was just weird Georgia Tech voodoo magic. I know you were at the game, so if you want to, anything about your experience at Georgia Tech, Alice Stadium, I know sometimes it's pretty cool with how they're situated, like in the middle of like Atlanta.
Yeah, no, I wasn't expecting that. That was my first time ever being at a game at Georgia Tech. I've been to Atlanta, but I've never been around the campus for Georgia Tech before. It was great. Tailgating was with the hard hat guys and the parents was awesome. Georgia Tech fans that were around us were really nice. I heard mixed reviews about their fans going in, but the ones who walked by the tailgate were all super nice to us and very accommodating. So that was cool. Bobby Dodd Stadium is awesome. I loved it a lot. They put on a good show there at Bobby Dodd with the production and game day atmosphere. The
Must
game just, yeah, it must be nice. The game just really never got going. Like there was at no point was I really like, okay, like we're starting to pick it up. Like it's coming along. Like we're going a little bit of a rally here. Like we're picking it up. There's nothing. Like yeah, there were a couple scores. I mean, Samir Hagens had the legacy game with like 2 catches and a touchdown.
yeah,
But outside of that, there wasn't really a whole lot that I was excited about. Like just the Duke section was full. It was a lot of parents. That was pretty cool to be surrounded by that many Duke fans in that corner that we had. But yeah, just kind of a game that was it reminded me of the UVA game last year, where I just felt like it never really got going. Like there was no point where I was like, all right, yeah, this is Duke's game. Not at
yeah,
all. But yeah.
yeah. I mean, it was again. We'll get to it here in a minute after we get to the Florida State game. Another slow start. It's just hard to get momentum. Just sleepwalking if you're a fan. And now the last one, and I could. This was the first home game I've missed all year. Hopefully, the only one I missed this year. Um, Friday night in Wallace Wade, Florida State comes into town. Duke breaks the streak. We finally get our first ever win against Florida State, but my God, was it ugly? I mean, like,
Pretty bad.
oh, it was a tough watch. Duke takes down Florida State 23-16. Florida State went through like three quarterbacks in the game. I don't know that Duke had a quarterback all game. Um, no one had like more than 100 yards. Florida State had 5 turnovers, three in a row. One was a touchdown. Like it was, I don't know what it felt like, and I'll get to you here in a minute. I don't know what it felt like inside Wallace Wade, but in my own home, I wanted to just go lay down in a highway for like 90% of this game. And Duke was like dominating most of this game
Yeah,
on
on
one.
defense. Yeah.
Yeah, but like even then, I wasn't like I was never. Duke went up at one point in time. We were up 17-6 at halftime, and even then, it was just like, ugh, like cool. We're up 17-6, but like, what have we done? There's
Felt like
nothing.
it felt like the Elon game, right? It was like,
Yeah,
we're winning, but we should be winning by more right now.
it's like we're winning. So it's one of those things. Like I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed, kind of deals.
Yeah.
Which is probably the best way to describe Duke being 6-1 because like we can't bitch about 6-1, but we're going to because absolutely we should. I think that's where I'm at with like every game this year. So like I'll go ahead and let you go first about like kind of what it felt like and like what were the it looked like a decent crowd too.
It was solid for like from like halfway through the first quarter to like halftime. But yeah, no, it was a great day. It was a beautiful, beautiful day for football. Got out to the tailgates around like 1 o'clock, 1:30, 2 o'clock. Hung out with the hard hat guys. Went into the stadium. I was expecting like an awful crowd in the beginning. Like the beginning of the first quarter, I was like, wow, reminded me of Wake Forest last year, just empty. But then the crowd actually filled out really nicely. Like I said, like from halfway through the first quarter until halftime, there was a solid crowd, a good amount of Duke fans. Although, like you mentioned, the offense never really got going at all. Like if I think back to it, the thing where the Duke gets a first down on offense and the PA guy yells, "We're at his first down," and we all go Duke. I feel like we did that maybe 3 times on Friday. Like I could count them on one hand. I feel like
I don't
uh
far off.
the defense was stifling, just electric. They gave me life. What can I say? Offense. I don't know. Would you say this is the most frustrating offensive game that we've had?
This is the problem that I had to think this hard about. It's like the first half of the UNC game might have been the most
Yeah.
because they were terrible. But like Florida State's defense isn't very good either. Um, Overall, probably like the Georgia Tech game, we moved the ball, we just didn't get points. This game, we couldn't even move the ball. So yeah, I'd say this one's probably the one that pissed me off the most.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like earlier in the season when we were playing the nobodies like Elon, UConn, Middle Tennessee, it was or not so much Middle Tennessee, but like Elon, UConn, Northwestern. It was like a great we're winning, but my God, do we look bad doing it? We should be
Right.
winning by a lot more. And it's like you said, good teams beat the shit out of bad teams. We don't. We scrape out wins against bad teams.
The the best sign of a good team isn't necessarily that you beat other good teams because like good teams are hard to beat. The sign of a good team is you don't let the bad teams hang around and beat you. Like you get in there, you take care of business in the first half, you coast to the second half, you get to like the big game. Like it's and no disrespect to Florida State, they're not a good football team this year. Florida State's very talented. It's Florida State. They've got a talented roster. They are not a good football team this
Yeah. But then you're just sitting there like and like but even in those games earlier in the season, you're like, well, the offensive like play calling and execution hasn't looked great. They'll pick it up next game. Oh, well, still doesn't look that great, but they'll get it this week for sure. That still doesn't look great. This week will definitely be the week they figure it out. We've been saying that for like 8 weeks now, and it still hasn't happened.
year.
Like at this point, like what made this game so frustrating was we're what 8 weeks into the season now, 7 weeks,
Yeah.
and like you're like they still haven't figured it out. Like the play calling is awful. Eh, I don't like slamming players on this podcast, but like Malik hasn't he's not really met my expectations and my hopes, but I don't fully hold it against them. I'm over the whole Malik doesn't run thing, whatever. My main concern is not calling plays to his strong suit. They're calling plays as if Riley Leonard is still back there taking snaps, and they're not, or he's not. Tyler, what are your
Well,
thoughts?
the other thing is like it just um sometimes oh, like sometimes with Riley it made sense. But if you look at Malik, 12 completions for 70 yards.
Bad.
What was the one thing that everyone talked about with Malik when he got here? His arm talent, like his strength.
Yeah.
12 completions for 70. That right there tells me we're not pushing the ball down, which is his thing.
Yeah.
He was, and if you go back to the earlier episodes, I said he might struggle, but I said like he's raw, he's got a cannon of an arm, and that's why you bring him in here. But that's the thing, like the short, intermediate, quick passes. You work on that during the week, and then when the game gets here, it's Malik. What are you comfortable with? You want to throw it deep 30 times? All right, let's just throw the ball. And with how we're working right now on offense, what have we got to lose? We can't
Yeah.
catch. We can't catch the ball anyways.
Yeah.
Throw it deep 30 yards. Hope we fall down with it. Like,
Well, and that's the thing. It's like even when they make a good play call and Malik hits a guy in the numbers, they drop it. It's like they can't Malik for whatever reason can't do the short intermediate quick stuff. He throws at a guy's feet on slant routes when he has no pressure, but then he'll throw a dime 50 yards through the air and hit the guy right here and it bounces off his hands. Or they just can't get to it or they don't get like so it's like even when he makes a lot of questionable throws, but then even when he makes a great throw, they drop it. So it's like you just can't win. And the guys can't get separation either. So it's like,
that was that was the big thing that like stood out to me against FSU that I really like. I had noticed some before, but like against FSU, especially if you watched it on TV, like a lot of people were claiming like, oh, they're holding us every play. Like, no, they are just smothering us. They're like they weren't holding us. We just couldn't get any space.
yeah,
And I'd love our receiver room to death. Like I still think it's like the top to bottom, the strongest room. Maybe defensive line actually, but like the second best is probably our receiver room. But we don't have that kind of guy. We don't have the guys where you get the ball to them 3 yards downfield and they make plays, break ankles, whatever, and get down the field. We've got guys where you've just got to throw them open and hope they catch it.
Yeah.
and that's the problem. Like we're not doing that. We're throwing 2 yard out. We're getting to 3rd and 9 and throwing a 3 yard out route.
Or bubble screen.
Like well, I told you, I tweeted out earlier. I said Jonathan Brewer. It's 5 p.m. on a Tuesday, and Jonathan Brewer already has the opening drive schemed up for Duke this week. First
Well,
down, run up the middle. Second down, deep pass, incomplete. Third down, bubble screen, and then we're gonna punt.
and
And it's
speaking of third,
every drive.
yeah, and speaking of third downs, you and I were talking about this earlier. Duke's third down conversion percentage is 24.71%. That's ranked 132nd in the nation out of what? 133 or 6?
Yeah, it's like 133, 130. It's in the 130s. So like we're bottom 10 nationally in third down offense.
And then you look on the flip side with Duke's dominant defense, uh Duke's opposing third down conversion percentage is 28.57, which is ranked ninth nationally. So Duke's elite defense is offset by their terrible offense, which means that Duke's opponents are converting more on third down against our elite defense than our offenses against bad defenses.
Yeah, well,
Think
and
about that.
that right there's the thing I want to point up. I'm getting ready to pull up some of the teams we've played and talking about bad defenses. I'll just go to the last 3 games we've played. We'll go back and start with UNC and how their defense is fared this year. I'm not going to pull up actual numbers. I'm just going to pull up like the scores of games. I know. Well, we know for a fact James Madison hung 70 on UNC, and we couldn't score, but we only got 21 on him. Yeah, James Madison scored 70. Pitt scored 34. Georgia Tech scored 41. We scored 21 on them. You look at Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech, I think Notre Dame put up big numbers on them. The Riley Leonard tour continues. Notre Dame scored 31 on Georgia Tech. Carolina scored 34 on them. Louisville scored 31 on them. Syracuse has scored 31 on them. We scored 14. You look at Florida State. SMU hung 44. SMU hung 42 on Florida State. Clemson had 29. Boston College 28. Georgia Tech 24. We had 23. So like everyone is putting up numbers on these teams, but Duke, which is
Yeah.
the problem. So yes, you can look at it. And yes, Duke is 6-1. We're not complaining. Duke is 6-1. I am very happy. I didn't think we'd be here. I didn't think we'd make a bowl game. Like I think I had us at 7-5. So we're a win off of my prediction, and I think we're going to get closer to 8 than 7. But like, you can be 6-1 and still not be playing perfect football.
Yeah.
You can be 6-1 and it'd be perfectly okay to say, "Hey, our offense is dog shit. Like if we don't fix it, nothing good's going to happen." Like, cool, our defense carries us to what 7-5. We go to a bowl game and get pounded by James Madison.
Yeah. I mean that's about it.
Cool. Like what does that accomplish for us?
And that's one of the things that it's been irritating me a lot from Duke fans, not just this season, but just in general. Like a lot of Duke fans, I have a lot of complaints with a lot of Duke fans, but they think that you can't love the team but criticize certain aspects of it. They think, oh, well, you're not a true fan if you question this and you don't like this, dude. It's like again, yeah, we're happy to be 6-1. That's not what we're complaining about. However, like you're saying, it's there's so much left on the table. Our defense has been playing their asses off. Like they're ranked top 40 in, let's see, opposing points per game, yards per game, points per play, yards per play, third down conversion percentage. Like they're really good. And the offense is just hanging them out to dry. Like just think about where Duke could be right now if we were dog crap on offense, but think about just how much better off the whole team would be if we were even just adequate at offense. Not even good, just adequate.
Well, that's the thing. Like people have to understand that it's okay to have standards.
Yeah.
Like look at Alabama. I'm not trying to compare Duke to Alabama. I know that's not a fair comparison to make. But with that being said, Kalen DeBoer just took over for Nick Saban. Alabama beat Georgia, who's really damn good at football, but Alabama's got 2 losses. One to Tennessee, who's a top 10 team in the country. Another one to Vandy, who Vandy might be good, weirdly enough. And people want him fired.
Yeah.
Like not just like your cat, like big time people want him fired for being 5-2 with a win over the then number 1 team in the country. And meanwhile, people are calling Duke fans fake fans for saying, "Hey, we're 6-1, but our offense has to be better."
Yeah.
Like, if you want to win, that's what it takes.
Yeah.
Like, winning football isn't just sitting back and saying, "Oh, 6 wins. Well, we tried our best."
And that's the way a lot of Duke fans are, because like you'll see it. It's like, stop complaining about 6 wins, 7 wins. It's better than it used to be. These are the people who, like, when Duke would come out and win 1 game, 2 games, be like, hey, stop complaining. It's better than zero, okay? Like,
It's not. And now I will give this credit to Duke fans. The attendance this year has been phenomenal for every
yeah,
game. Like,
yeah,
I want
I'll
to
give
see
them
it,
that.
hear what the number is, like, because like the home games, like there have been, and with SMU this week, it's almost sold out now. I know it's employee day and all like that, but still, like primetime SMU on Saturday, it's going to be basically a sold out game. In reality, probably like 70% capacity. But if Duke can get to 70% for every home game, dude, I will take that every fucking day.
Yeah.
Um, the big thing that worries me is like, well, Virginia Tech will be packed out. Virginia Tech will bring 1,000 fans with them.
A
Um,
thousand? Only 1,000?
well, like more like 100,000. Like they'll pack out the stadium. That one's going to be rough. But again, like I said, it's okay to like Duke is 6-1. That is good. Duke is also not playing good offense and hasn't all year. And again, like it's one of those things where I'm not going to criticize Manny. I think Manny's a hell of a coach. He's done a great job. I don't think just anyone takes us to 6-1 right now. When the offseason gets here, Manny's got to make a decision. Either Murphy goes or Brewer goes. You cannot bring both back because it's just not working.
They don't fit together at all.
I don't care which one it is. I really don't, because I still think Brewer could be a good offensive coordinator. He's just not good for Malik. It's just not a good match. So like,
Correct.
something's got to change. Like Manny can't watch how this offense has performed all year and say, "Let's run it back, boys, next year," and not change something.
Yeah.
It's like I told you. Even if you keep Brewer, you don't have to fire Brewer. I told you and Noah this earlier. Just bring in someone that's called plays before. That's like an old vet guy. That's like, "Hey, I just need you to do this for us for a year. Call plays. Show Brewer how we're going to do things. Here's what I want you to do." Boom. And then you turn around, let Brewer sit for a year, kind of learn. He still coaches the quarterbacks. And then year 3, you tell Brewer, "All right, it's make or break this year." You don't have to fire, but you've got to change something.
Right.
Brewer can call plays for Malik Murphy next year and Duke be successful.
Correct. And it's like, back to that, we touched on Riley like a tiny bit earlier with Notre Dame. I'm not saying Riley Leonard is a great quarterback. Everyone knows I've have my fair share of criticisms towards him, but he would actually be perfect in this scheme.
Oh, absolutely.
Just dink and dunk throws, slants, screen passes,
And
RPO every single play. Like, my God, he would be excelling in this offense. So, but that's not Malik's thing yet. They, for some reason, haven't adapted. Either Brewer isn't adequate enough to be like, hey, wait, we're 8 weeks in and the offense still looks like shit. Maybe I should change something up. Either like he's just hasn't realized that, or he's stubborn and refuses to, like, to save face. A good offensive mind, a good play caller, and a good coach adapts. Adapt or die is a very real thing. There are a lot of old coaches that have been forced into retirement because they either couldn't or wouldn't adapt to the changing game. And that's a similar thing to
well,
what's going on here.
look at Cut. We've seen
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
What
Cutcliffe couldn't
what
and wouldn't keep up.
he not well, yes and no. It's like he wouldn't change things when it wasn't working either. Like when the Ropers, aka Jonathan Brewer, uh, weren't getting the job done, he wasn't going to change it.
Yeah.
He was they were going to have to leave because he wasn't going to fire. And like I'm curious how like Manny's going to handle that kind of thing, because like sometimes you just have to make that decision and be like, this isn't working, and I'm going to get rid of you before I get rid of myself. Like Oklahoma, one of the top 10 probably football jobs in the country all time, just fired their offensive coordinator halfway through the season.
Dude, we'll take him.
Like Oklahoma's going to go to a bowl game probably still this year. Like they scored 34 on Tulane a month ago. They scored 27 on Auburn a month ago. But they scored 3 against Texas and then 9 against South Carolina back-to-back weeks, and they fired their offensive coordinator. I'm just saying, guys, if you want to be a big-time football program, you got to run it like one. And here's the big thing I'm talking about. And we talk about, shout out Scott Medlin, another Section 17 reference. Scott said it on their podcast. We're calling RPOs without the R because Malik's not going to run. And that's not an indictment on Malik Murphy. I've said that you can be a great college football quarterback without ever running for a yard. It's possible. Look at Tom Brady. Tom Brady had like less than 500 career rushing yards. He played for 20 years in the NFL.
And Peyton Manning.
Yeah, like it can happen. No, I'm not saying Malik Murphy's Tom Brady or Peyton Manning. Don't. But I'm just saying like that it's possible to be that good and not be a running threat. The problem is we don't call plays for that to happen. We call plays where Malik's got to scramble or Malik's supposed to run. Malik's supposed to be a running threat. Well, the
Or at
defense is
least there be a threat that he could run.
yeah, and the defense is going to see that play and be like, well, we know he's not going to run it, so back off. And then Malik's progressing two routes that we run, and there's 11 guys in coverage.
Yeah.
Like
Like if
we've
there's
got
a dollar for every RPO, like where they've handed it off, and there's just a wide open lane you could fit a Mack truck through, where Malik, if he could or wanted to take off, could easily get 5-10 yards even at his speed. Like my God.
unlike this is the last thing I told you this like 20 seconds before we got into the pod. Looking like Duke's stats for the year, we've thrown the ball 233 times all year. We've run it for 227. We can run the football. Star Thomas is really damn good.
So is Peyton Jones. And we have Jacquez Moore coming back soon.
Yeah. Like Star Thomas is averaging 4.5 yards a carry. Peyton Jones at 48 carries is now down to 4 yards a carry. Gotta get them back up to 5. Um Quez only has 14 carries on the year, but even then he was averaging 3 yards a carry. It's like run the ball more. But the thing is, we just run the ball. It's like we just run the ball to run the ball.
They run the ball
Like,
the same formation every time,
yeah,
though. They only run the ball out of RPO like shotgun. Like mix up how you run the ball.
it's like we're only running the ball because we feel like we've got to run it. It's not like, hey, we're running the ball because we think we can be successful with this run or we think this run's going to work. It's like, well, we've thrown it 4 times in a row. Let's hand one off real quick, guys.
Yeah.
Like you've got guys that can like Star Thomas won us the UNC game. Star Thomas is really good. Peyton Jones is really good. Use those guys. Run the ball, run the ball, run the ball, and then don't run an RPO. Run a play action pass and let Malik throw it over the top of everybody. It's not rocket science. And like I said, at least if Duke throws the ball deep every play, it'll be exciting.
Yeah.
We might throw 13 interceptions, but hell, at least the ball is moving. We're not throwing it at the feet of a guy on a 3 yard slant, or we're not watching Malik run over his own feet and fall down, or Star Thomas run into the center's ass for the 15th time in a row.
Yeah. So even if
And
you're throwing it deep every play, like at least there's a chance something big can happen and something exciting can happen.
and I'll say this about Malik: like everyone's harped on Malik and stuff. He is still like Malik has struggled. I am probably one of the biggest defenders supporters he's got. He's struggled. He's played rough in some games, no doubt. He hasn't been the best, but I think a lot of people have overblown like sometimes how bad. Like he's got 1,500 yards. He's completing exactly 60% of his passes. He's got 14 touchdowns and only 5 interceptions. So it's not like he's been terrible. The problem is when he's been bad, it's bad.
Yeah, really
Like
bad.
there's no like meh. It's either wow or oh my god, what was that?
That's the thing with Malik, man. It cracks me up, but it's also scary. It's like he can have no pressure, throw it at a guy's feet on like a 4 yard slant, and the guy's wide open. And then the next play, throw it 55 yards through the air and hit a guy in the numbers,
Yeah.
and then they drop it.
And now I'll touch on something you said. One last thing, so we're gonna get on. Then we're gonna get on to SMU and stuff. Duke has been plagued a little bit by the injuries on offense. Um, you know, like I said, Jaquez only has 14 carries all year. He came back for the UNC game, ran the ball 1 time and got hurt, which means that he probably shouldn't have been out there to begin with. I'll just leave it at that. Um, Nicky's going to be out for the rest of the year. Manny came out and said that this week. You hate to hear that. So now we're down Nicky. We're down Hazley at tight end. Um, or Hasley, excuse me. We're down Hasley at tight end. Who else? There was Quez. Nick Morris is still out. We still haven't seen Nick back. Jomo's banged up still. Like he wasn't on the field hardly any against Florida State. It felt like.
Yeah,
Uh,
which then like Section 17 was saying earlier today, like they would usually like put all the focus on Jomo, and then that would let Eli be open. But then when Jomo's out, they put all the focus on Eli, so he's taken out of the equation. So they really don't have anyone to throw it to. Because even
yeah,
when Mullen was in the game, hate to say it, usually had brick
he
hands.
he was
Uh,
He was struggling this year.
So when people are saying stuff like, "Oh man, like losing Nicky's really going to hurt this offense," he was great in the run blocking, and he was a threat to catch sometimes. But it's not like he was our offense, and like, oh
Yeah.
man, like Nicky Dalmolin, like we're screwed.
And now the one positive this year that's come out of it has been the emergence of our boy Queso, Keyshawn Brown,
Yeah,
Sean Brown,
John Brown.
old Queso. He's actually tied with Samir for third in receptions on the team this year. He's only 11 off the lead, and he's 5 behind Pankel. Queso's got 20 receptions for 146 yards and a touchdown this year. Samir's got 20 for a buck 94. Eli's got 25 for 308, and Jomo's got 31 for 453. So like we're spreading the ball around a little bit, but yeah, there are some guys that for whatever reason we just haven't used much. Like Javon Harvey, 7 receptions this year. Stars only got 8 catches. Peyton Jones only has 2. Nicky only had 11. So like it's been some struggles. Defensively, I will say, if anyone had Alex Howard and Ozzie Nicholas and Cam Bergeron as 3 of our 4 leading tacklers to start the year, I just don't believe it.
Yeah, it's a pleasant
Like
surprise.
those guys have really like impressed. And don't get me wrong, Trey has finally started to come around a little bit. Trey's up to 44 tackles. He just, I don't know. Like, you never hear his name called. He's
He's
second on
just
the team.
there.
I love Trey, and I was on the Trey. I thought he was going to be a draft pick and stuff. It's just weird. He's always there, but you don't see or hear him. It's the damnedest thing. Um, but Alex Howard at this point is going to lead the team in tackles with 52. Trey's got 44. Ozzie's got 43. Bergeron's got 41. Stinson and Terry Moore doing their thing. Deshaun Stone. And believe it or not, I think Alex Howard has the team lead in sacks. If ESPN will update it. Yeah, Alex Howard has 5 sacks. Then so Alex Howard leads the team in tackles and sacks. VJ and
A
West
beast.
have 4. I think Duke's at 24 sacks, and then TFL's ESPN doesn't have that shown, but I know we're top 3 in tackles for loss and sacks both nationally.
Speaking of, if you want to hear a wild stat, looking at Duke's defense as a whole, some of their national rankings, they're 20th in opposing teams' completion percentages in the passing game. They're number 2 nationally in offensive opposing completion percentages. No, sorry, offense yards per pass. That's what it is. Opposing team's yard per pass against Duke is 4.9 yards per play, and they're number 2 nationally, which is pretty wild.
so
They're
like
number eight nationally in opposing pass yards per game. I mean, 35 in the nation in terms of sack percentage. Just crazy.
this is going to be one of those games where, or before we get to SMU, for as bad and as frustrating as Duke's offense has been, Duke's defense has been equally as like impressive and like wow factor. And I think one thing, and now that we're 7 weeks in, there's a lot more to talk about as opposed to like the first 3 weeks. It's like you kind of wait and see how things unfold and what happens. There's no personality on this Duke team. Like there,
Yeah.
they're not like last year with like you had Dwayne and Jamie on, and hell even Bub, like even Aeneas, and then on offense you had Riley. Like we had those guys that if nothing else, it's like you were going to watch them and you knew like they meant business. It's like this team, and sometimes it's good to have that mindset, like, hey, calm, cool, collected, nothing. But it's like this team never shows like that, that energy sometimes.
Right. Here's what it reminds me of.
And it's odd because Manny shows it.
Yeah.
It's like the inverse of last year where the team would show it, but Elko was always just even kill. Now Manny shows the energy. It's like the guys don't. It's a weird dynamic, man.
What it reminds me of is because we lost most of our big name guys, whether it was a transfer portal or to the draft. And what it reminds me of, it's like I have a poster of the team from last year where it's all these guys, Graham, Jacob, Riley, Dwayne Carter, all these guys posing together, Brandon Johnson, and then not a single one of those guys is on the roster anymore. And then
Yeah.
the team poster this year, is it's got two guys on it. It's got Trey and it's got Jordan Moore, which those guys are stars, don't get me wrong. But it reminds me of the scene in Moneyball once they lose like Jason Giambi, they lose who are the other guys? Johnny Damon and
And
Isringhausen.
yeah,
And Billy's walking into the Coliseum and they're taking down the big posters of like Giambi and Damon. Like that's what this reminds me of. It's like the banner guys are gone. And so
yeah,
you're starting from scratch almost. Like it's some of the guys who were there last year who were key players. And then some guys that were brought in like via transfer, but like yeah, there's I don't maybe like what is it, an identity? There's not
yeah.
really a huge identity for this team.
And like there's culture. There's just not, like you said, an identity.
There's
Um,
not a vibe. There's not a vibe
yeah.
here.
But all in all, we're gonna get to SMU now. Duke 6-1. We're going bowling, guaranteed. We'll take it. Again, we're not upset. We're just disappointed in the offense. But looking ahead, for those of you that don't know, SMU's in the ACC now, and they are a wagon. Um, SMU started the year off rough. Preston Stone was their quarterback. They switched to Kevin Jennings 3 or 4 games in, kind of full time. To give you guys a quick rundown, they opened up the year against Nevada at Nevada, won by 5 points. Nevada's not very good, but Nevada just beat Oregon State. So, like, they're not terrible week one. They then turned around and played Houston Christian 59-7, beat them. BYU beat SMU 18-15. For those of you who don't follow football a lot, BYU is undefeated, ranked number 11th in the entire country right now. They're pretty good. Then they turn around, they beat TCU 66-42. They beat Florida State 42-16. They go to Louisville and win 34-27. They go to Stanford and win 40-10, and now they're coming into Wallace Wade Saturday night under the lights. I'm just telling you guys, SMU is legit. Duke's not like it's not a foregone conclusion that SMU is going to win. It's not like going to be the Miami game next week. Like Duke can beat SMU. I don't think it's very likely. Vegas opened at 11.5 point. SMU was an 11.5 point favorite when it opened up. Um, and I don't know. I'm gonna look it up real quick. I don't know if it's changed any. I doubt it's gone down. If anything, Duke's probably a higher favorite. Yeah, all right. I've still got 11.5 right now. So Duke's basically a 10 point underdog against SMU, which makes sense. And SMU's defense isn't terrible. It's not great, but like if you look, I've got their stats pulled up. Points per game, they're 16th in the country at 37.7. So you might as well say 38 points a game. Duke scored more than 38 once this year. I think we broke 38 against Middle Tennessee. That's the only time we broke like 30.
Yeah, that
Uh,
sounds right.
they're giving up 23 points a game. That's 40. Like they're 44th in points per game on defense, and on offense they're 16th.
They're also at in terms of points per play. SMU's at .547. They're 14th nationally. Compare that to Duke, who's at .387, who's 61 nationally.
Like they're in yards per play. What are we at giving up yards per play on defense?
4.4, ranked ninth nationally.
SMU gives up 4.8 yards per play. So like SMU's defense
They're
is
close.
SMU's defense isn't bad. It's probably one of the better defensive, if not the best defense we'll play all year. And it's definitely the best offense we've seen all year so far. They're electric. Third down conversions, SMU converts 42.3% of third downs. Now, Duke's defense is really good against third downs, but SMU's offense is 43rd nationally. SMU's a third down defense, folks, Duke might not convert a third down all week or all night. SMU is allowing 31% completion on third down defensively, which is 18th highest in the country.
Compare that to Duke, who's converting 24.71 on
Yeah,
offense, and they're 132nd nationally.
that's a recipe for disaster, which means Duke's going to go like 11 for 11 on third downs this game because football, and then we won't convert another one the rest of the year.
Well, who was it? Was it Noah who was saying, "You guys get ready"? I'm gonna read it because it made me laugh out loud. Actually,
Yeah.
he said, "You
Oh,
guys aren't ready for this. I'm telling y'all right now, it's written in the stars. We're gonna absolutely pants SMU, get ranked 23rd, and then get boat raced at 7:30 on ABC next week in South Beach with Kirk and Chris on the call."
And
Oh
like
man.
the crazy thing is, like Duke football's hurt us so much, it makes sense. Like I can 100% see that happening, which sucks. Um, but like looking at like SMU, like man, they're a wagon. Their quarterback Kevin Jennings has a 1,300 yards on the season, completing 65% of his passes, 9 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. I will say SMU's given up 9 sacks on the year. Duke's really good at getting to the quarterback. That could be something to watch.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that actually.
As far as running the ball goes, they've got one really good running back, Rashad Smith. He's got 91 carries on the year, 628 yards. He's averaging 7 yards a touch. It'll be interesting to see kind of how our defensive line can dictate the game. Their best receiver, though, they announced this today. R.J. Maryland, their tight end, is easily their best player. R.J. Maryland could go play like pro football at tight end. He's got 24 catches for 359 yards, averaging 15 yards a catch for 4 touchdowns. He is out the rest of the year, so he won't be there. He might be there, but he's not going to play. Which is a good thing and a bad thing because now if you're Duke, you probably were banking on stopping him, and if someone else beat you. Now it's like, well, who do you stop? Because their next 4 guys, 17 catches, 16 catches, 15 catches, 13 catches, 11 catches, 100 yards, 100 yards, 100 yards, 200, 200. So like they spread the ball around.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's going to be a whole lot harder to try and figure out something
Well, I
there.
think that's also gonna. I think with Manny and how he runs his defense, he runs like that havoc defense, right? Where his main thing is get to the quarterback, force him to make mistakes, and the secondary will take care of it. I think it's more focused on causing havoc, and then the secondary will take care of it, as opposed to like game plan for every receiver.
Right. Um,
Hopefully, it
one,
works out.
yeah. One thing worth noting is SMU's only got 16 sacks on the year, so they don't get to the quarterback a ton. Knock on wood before they have 7 against us now. So like they're beatable. It's I've seen people say it, and this has pissed me off. Everybody says this has to be the game where like Duke clicks. You're 7 weeks in.
Yeah, if it hasn't happened now,
Like we said that against UConn. We said that against Middle Tennessee. We said that against UNC. It hasn't clicked. It's probably not going to click. And if it didn't click against teams that were giving up 70 points a game, it's probably not clicking against a team that's ranked, top 50 in every defensive metric,
yeah,
pretty much. No, that's not to say that I don't think Duke can limit SMU's offense. The problem is limiting SMU offensively would be holding them to 24 points.
and that's a
I
big ask of Duke's offense to
and,
get more than that.
yeah, and I don't know that Duke could get that on their defense is the thing. Like there's a world where Duke loses this game 24-10, and everyone's like, "Oh, hey, we lost the game by 14. Hey, we scored 10 points and had 112 yards of offense." Like it's the key for Duke is going to be, looking at how many sacks they've allowed and stuff. Like we're going to have to disrupt some stuff. It's gonna have to be like the FSU game. Duke's going to have to force some turnovers, and they really don't turn the ball over that much. Like I said, Kevin Jennings has 2 picks all year. Credit, Malik's only thrown 4, or 5 now. But I mean, like it's going to be tough. Like this, I don't think people should look at this and go, "Oh, SMU," and like shake it off. SMU's probably the best team Duke's played all year.
Yeah,
Out
and
and out,
probably one of the top 3 best they will play.
I would say outside of Miami, probably the best team that they're gonna play. Maybe Virginia Tech. Um, and like this is important. Like we're 6-1, and we talked about this in like our prediction episode. We were a little bit off. We said Florida State, SMU, Miami, and NC State. That 4-game stretch was going to be huge for Duke, and it still is. And you got one of them. The problem is, Duke was a lot better off than we thought when we got here. Now you're looking at 4 games coming up. SMU at home, on the road in Miami. It's safe to say we're just going to go ahead and count that one. We're losing that.
Yes, put that in the L
Yeah,
column real quick.
come back and find me if we win it. We're losing that one. The Manny revenge game, all of that. That means we'll probably lose by like 13 instead of 28. You've got then we go to NC State, which Who knows how State's going to be? Um, and then we get Virginia Tech at home, and Virginia Tech's going to be decent. Like they're not going to. Virginia Tech's probably on par with Georgia Tech and UNC in terms of we got to show up and win. So like these 4 games coming up: SMU, Miami State, Virginia Tech. It's wild to say, folks, and I can't believe I'm going to sit here and say Duke can make the ACC championship game still. Duke can lose to Miami and still make the ACC championship game. Do I think it's going to happen? Absolutely not. I don't think there's a shot in the world it happens, but it's possible. But
Or as our third co-host Noah would say, they'll bullshit their way into the championship game, or like they'll find themselves getting there by accident and then lose by 45 to Clemson or some shit.
We're gonna get there and find Clemson, and Dabo's gonna like extract revenge and absolutely 100 pizzas if he can.
Yeah,
but like this Duke team's very weird. I tweeted out there. I was like, "This is the weirdest 6-1 football team I've ever seen in my life," and it still is. Like Duke has done nothing all year to make me believe in them offensively, while the defense has made me believe we can be in every ball game.
Yeah,
like it's a really weird like complex this team has. It's like I said earlier, like I've always said Duke football is the Iowa of the ACC. And like that's what we're treading. Like Cade Remsen might as well, like his leg's gonna fall off. He might not make it 4 years, poor kid. But yeah, I mean, like we'll go ahead and get into the predictions. Like I said, we'll wrap this up, and then next week we'll be back hopefully every week from now on. It is worth noting SMU's missed 5 field goals this year.
Sounds like Duke. Oop.
Yeah, Todd struggled a little bit. Love Big Rod Todd, but he struggled. Well, okay, hold on. SMU's missed 5 field goals. 4 of them were for 50 plus.
Okay, well, yeah.
Hold on. Let's pump the brakes on that one. Ignore that. SMU's missed 1 field goal all year of inside 50 yards, so they can kick the ball. So yeah, I mean, I'll go first. I just again, I think Duke's defense can limit SMU a little bit. I just don't see a world where if we can't score more on some of the defensive we've played, where we're going to score on SMU's defense a ton. So our defense is going to give up 30 bombs some point in time. I think it's going to be next week. I'll go 27-13. No, 27-10. 27-10. I don't think we can score.
Nah, make it 9, just 3 field goals. Man, God, I just don't have a good feeling about this game. I have a better feeling about this game than I do Miami, but my prediction, yeah, give me SMU, give me 31. Give me SMU 34, Duke 13.
And here's the other thing worth mentioning. Like Duke's been very good this year and played in a lot of close games. Every team has that one game where shit hits the fan.
It's like, we weren't as good as we thought we were. Yeah.
I would much rather it be this game than like versus Wake Forest.
Yeah. Lose the game you're supposed to lose.
If we're going to play like absolute garbage and just, have one of those meltdown games, let it be against a really good team. Don't let it come against Wake Forest to end the year. Like let's get that out of the way now kind of thing. Like I said, we'll be back every episode now. Next week we'll have the mailbag back. Like I said, we're going to try and get episodes out every week. Noah will be back next week. Hopefully we'll have full house. Thank you guys as always. Make sure Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube and Spotify. Hopefully Apple Pod soon. Like, subscribe, give us a follow, all that fun stuff. Till next time, DDMF.